I don't think they're checking that stuff. And Bill, you were on target a couple of months ago, and I'm waiting to see how that goes, because that's what's got me concerned. You had observed on, I think it was about the 50% point, that our revenues were not matching. And it's real funny. At well, it's not funny. Pelican Reserve, they're hitting that sucker like hitting the bullseye. But over here on the Gateway side, we're not. And the Gateway side is where I've got the problems with the EAUs. And if we've underestimated, if we have overestimated the EAU counts, underestimated the EAU cost, we're gonna come up with revenue shortage.
But again, I looked in the prior years and we were right on target this year.
I'm just,
So,
knock
and
on
we
wood,
have collected
knock on wood, it's right, but right now, I feel safe, even though there's some errors in it. I don't think we're gonna get in troubles with it.
Because the order of magnitude is.
The order of magnitude is dropped down, yeah, yeah.
Anything
That's all I
else,
have.
Mr. Tinkle? I'll go last.
I'm sorry, one last one.
Go ahead.
This is for Kathleen.
Oh, okay.
Kathleen, if you want to take, I would be more than happy to make the motion that the board allow any member who does not want to have compensation for the supervisor fees. I would make that motion.
So it'd be individual choice.
Be
is what
individual
you're
choice.
saying.
We can't make motions. It says no motion.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. That's
I
true.
will work on that.
Madam Chair, if I may follow Mr. Tinkle too, I do have a letter we received dated June 17th that approved the $258,450 for the design fees to design those next set of bonds from the SRF, and we'll be bringing that loan application to the next board meeting.
Well, we need to be, I'm glad you brought that up. We need to be talking about that. We've got 15 ponds, and there is no way in God's green earth, next December, we're gonna issue contracts for 15 ponds.
Yeah.
There are enough builders. We need to take and have a discussion of which of those 15 ponds, 3, 4, that we wanna take and have Tetra Tech move full speed ahead on to get the design of those done such that they can go out for bid. Sitting there doing all 15 when we're only gonna bid 4 is ridiculous. We don't wanna miss next year's construction, so we
You
might.
say nothing about paying to have them all designed.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely get to getting them done, but at this point in time, I don't want him spending time on 9 ponds that we're not gonna put out for bid this year.
I understand.
We did 6 this year, right? So I'd like to try and target 6 again.
Well, right
So
now,
we can
what I would do is,
continue this forward.
we could work it backwards. We target 3.8 million, because that's all we got.
Right, I understand.
But yeah, I would agree with that. But we need to talk about that because he needs some guidance on how to go on that.
Yeah, I'll talk to Annie about that. We'll pick 5 and fast track those to make sure they're ready to go to bid November 1st.
Right.
Okay, I'm last. The first thing I'd like to say is thank you to staff. I think you did a really good job with the budget. I think you created more line items, so
We tried.
it's much clearer understanding of where our money's actually going. And with that thought in mind, I'm comfortable with the budget where it is. I think that we've got projects that we're trying to move forward. We're trying to get ahead of the curve and not be, we're trying to be proactive and not reactive. And I think we're getting there. It gets better all the time. And I think the only way we can maintain that is if we have what we need for staff to provide that level of service. So I'm very, very comfortable with where the budget is. I know there's gonna be some little tweakings here and there, you know, like sod for the dog park, or, you know, the fountain that needed to be taken out. But I think when you're talking about nickels and dimes, it is hardly worth it. I'm very comfortable with it. I don't have any questions at this point, so I just wanted to say thank you to staff. It's a good budget, it's a really good budget. You read it.
I'd like to second what the chairman has just said. But I've got to tell you that the increase of 10.1% in the O1 fund without capital improvements after we've had, 2 straight years of double-digit increases of like 17%, is gonna bite us one of these days, and I would really, ask you to use your very best estimate to try and get that 10.1 down at least at the single digits before we go to the budget hearing. I don't think there's any sense in having people beat us up for no reason. When I got a reason, that's okay.
Where have you got the 10.1? I got 8.27.
I believe you're going off the total budget, you're just going off the expenditures, which is on page
Okay.
1 of the budget.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, just operating is 10.1, with the capital improvement, it's 5.3.
I understand that, but if I were a resident with this increase, I'd be looking at the high one. I'd be looking at the high percentage increase, that's 10.1, and expecting you to justify it. And I'm not saying that you can't, but I want you to make sure you can, because we're the ones who are gonna get plastered.
Page.
End of statement.
What is, that 10%, give me what does that equal in dollars?
$326,303.
Right there.
326,003.
Divided by 6,000 plus ERUs, and it's what, 65?
So basically, what, if I'm following you, Bill, in order to get flat, that's the dollar amount that we would have to pull or shuffle or fund in other ways.
You didn't hear me say that. You didn't hear me say flat. I just.
I know, no, what I was saying, in order to get to zero, to
Yeah.
get flat, that's the dollar amount. But you're looking for not double digits.
That's right.
That would be ideal.
I'm hearing a supervisor saying, I think maybe she agrees with me.
And just for point of clarity, I can't remember the number. What do we have sitting in reserves?
I would have to, actually, I brought it
I thought I
here.
saw it, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Operating or capital?
Both. I think I did some capital at, one of them was 3.
We're at 700,000 for emergency reserves unassigned, which this is not the entire amount, but unassigned of 2.8, which was that part that we were playing with last year, pulling from. So there will be room potentially later. And Stephen could give us a more accurate number, because it's gonna be a little bit less than that, to pull from, if you wanna fund some things.
When's our 90 days up from the connection fee to be able to start getting that additional revenue? We got, what, about another 30 days?
That's additional fees that come in.
What's our projections?
It went from 1797 to 27 something.
Yeah, I think so.
So about $1,000 in ERU, and so it would impact everybody in Prado and Pistoia.
I
which are the
think,
two growth
they're
areas.
done.
I'm sorry?
We haven't gotten water sewer connection fees lately from them, and we just got one last week, and there's only one.
They've all been paid for, or?
I don't know, they're really slowing down, so, and I don't see the construction slowing down.
Oh, okay.
That's a guess, but, I mean, we've been receiving a lot of them the past few months. They've all been Prado Pistoia,
The only
and
other
we
thing-
got one.
Yeah, the only other thing we got coming up is Arborwood, Phase 3, and whatever happens to Worthington, and then we're done.
And there was a notice placed out there, Mr. Tinkle, you'd find interesting down in Worthington, a code violation for the faded road striping.
Faded road striping.
Hey, remember I mentioned to you, we had that assessment of the pavement done, they said.
Oh, you mean on the
It's in good
Commerce
shape.
Lakes Drive?
Yes, sir. So I don't know who exactly is gonna respond to that.
For the issue to the landowner, to the POA that doesn't exist.
Correct. But it's out there, it was a notice, I took a picture of it.
So, well, we can talk about that in supervisor comments.
So the to help Mr. Guy and to lower that below the 10%, we could take, say, 126,303 out of reserves and fund part of that additional, and that would lower it.
Last year, you guys, I believe, brought in like 120,000 to fund that stormwater management plan. You also have that room in the higher reserve transfer that essentially over doubled. So, yeah, I mean, there are options.
So we could consider transferring out of reserves
To fund
enough
some.
money to lower the percentage below the 10% into the 8 or 9%. Just asking the question. We'll consider that.
I think that's very wise for you to consider.
Yeah, and if there is the ability with the, future, when we're looking at assessment.
Just remember though, now you're, and that's fine, especially if we're building it, but now you're artificial lowering it, so once that pot runs out, then
Yeah.
you're gonna be at a 30% increase at one
Right,
point. Then you're
and
gonna
that's
be-
what I don't wanna do either.
So, I mean, yes, it can be used, but don't be like, let's use 400 or whatever.
Right.
To really lower it, because you're gonna drain that pot, and then emergency comes up, so.
Don't- I agree with you, because
Yeah. But
the
it's
cost of everything goes up. You know, the cost of electricity, the cost of everything, fuel, gasoline, everything goes up. So to have a small increase
And,
doesn't really work.
let's see, because our next meeting,
You're in the utility business.
our next meeting is July 18th, correct?
Yes,
You're going July 14th.
July 18th.
So then we'll relay this information to Stephen and see if he could give us a more accurate number. So at the workshop on the 18th, we would have a pot that could be reasonable to look at.
It's a much better story or talk track when you're talking single digit increases
Oh,
as
yeah.
opposed to double. Right? 'Cause double means double.
Right.
When we
Even
experienced
if
that
it's
last year.
barely double.
It was.
We'll get it from 10.1 to 9.9.
There
It's
you go.
double.
Well, keep in
Single
mind, you
digit.
go to the page on the assessment, what the people really see is not double
It's
digit.
8.07,
Right, yeah.
that's what I
And
said.
that I believe is inclusive though of the debt service lowering and things like that. So
Yeah.
Bill was looking at just, our operating budget has increased 10%.
Which is what triggers the notice, has to keep that debt service piece, it's the only thing that's.
Okay, supervisor comments. Since I started down here, I'll start down here. Mr. King.
What did I just say was gonna
Um,
We're adjourning.
do what?
Oh.
Is that what it was that we were just talking about? Lost it.
Well, if you
Don't have anything.
if you remember it.
If I remember.
You'll remember it when it gets down there.
I'll come back.
Mr. Banks.
Can you remind me, when we, the maintenance, I'm sorry, the landscaping contract, we renewed, we did split out the different areas this past year, right? So we can start tracking the different areas. And can you just remind me what those areas are? How do we bucket them?
We split the pool out, we split the soccer field out.
And that's one standalone together, or it's pool, soccer?
Soccer. And one thing with the work they're doing right now with the chemical applications in the SIPCO, I've asked them for the quantities they're implying on the field, so I
Yeah.
can look at what price it would be for government services and sales tax savings, and also to verify the amount of chemical they're using, per square yard.
And so just tell me, so we got pool, soccer, and how else do we categorize?
It's just landscape, basically, pavement acre from Boulevard.
Okay.
And that's a 3-year contract, but it's, you can cancel at any time, and it renews every year automatically unless you cancel it.
Okay.
Anything?
No, that's it.
Mr. Guy.
I only want to say that it continues to be delightful to work with this board.
We're moving right along.
Yes,
aren't
we are, and again, my congratulations, Mr. District Manager.
Award-winning Mr. District
Yeah.
Manager.
I was gonna put it on a chain around my neck like Flavor Flav.
You keep this up, you might get a private office one day.
I wouldn't put any money on that at all.
Now, how we define private
Yeah.
is up to us.
It says minutes.
Mrs. Flaherty.
Yes, they do.
Go ahead.
Okay. The holes over here in the street, are we any closer to filling them?
Oh, God.
Yeah, we actually are. I have a contractor coming out because I have a few in Pelican too that I need to be fixed.
Okay.
So I will promise you by the July 18th meeting. filled.
Mike, I have a question. The ADA, or how are we, where are we at there?
We're gonna possibly, Tony and I, he actually finally sent over the.
Not that he being me, he being the vendor.
Yeah, sorry.
I wanna get your-
Don't worry, then the next thing in about 2 weeks will be actually
I got that.
keep going, but yes, the vendor finally sent over his revised agreement, which, as Tony had stated, is substantially changed.
Pretty good.
I briefly read over it, I'm sure he has looked farther into it, but basically, you said there were only a couple minor changes, we're gonna maybe have a phone call Monday, soon going back to him, and then probably trying to get scheduled with him, which at FASD, he was actually there, and I tried talking to him twice, but he always had people around him.
Gee, I wonder why.
I don't know, but, so, I don't know how busy he is out, 'cause I haven't talked to him recently, but it's,
Yeah, Mr. Guy, on that, the contract, it's obvious, it's a much better contract from the government sector perspective. And obviously, that company, the ADA Site Compliance Company, must have received substantial feedback from attorneys and counsel representing local governments and or special districts, because it's more tailor-made towards the government sector clients. It's very obvious, which is good, and a lot of good things in there.
Deeper fine.
No, actually, more protection for us.
Go ahead, Mrs. Speaker, okay? I just wanted to thank Mr. Shoemaker, he used a grant to go to the fascias, I appreciate that, okay? I also wanted to thank Elle, she got a grant from the Florida Municipal Trust Grant for, safety, a safety grant, so I wanted to thank her for that, okay? And the other thing is the flowway, I noticed that you did the flowway, and the residents love it because I saw them fishing. On my way here. Okay, thank you. That's it.
You said you remembered.
Well, Tony remembered. Two things. One, did everybody get their form filled out, has to be submitted by July 1st? Got those done. And then the other one was, gentleman was here earlier, didn't want to stick around. But he's from Daniels Preserve. Where are we, Chris, relative to getting the costs together on
Conversation.
Commerce Lakes Drive East for the turnover, and then second part of that is.
Fairway Lakes and Town Lakes, one part
Oh, the
Yeah.
defunct POA.
Yeah, the defunct POAs. If there are improvements to be made like they were, we had WCI pick up the tab on those before, but WCI get involved. How are those, are we going to eat it? Is that the contemplation, or are we going to go back and assess everybody that's benefits by that road? Which would be very difficult to do, because a lot of people use that road that don't live in that area.
Correct, and all I have at this point is the dollar estimates, and say the paving is in good shape and most of them, it was the striping that needed more immediate concern.
I'd say Fairway Lakes Office Park, the paving is.
But I have,
Not really good.
I have all the estimates from
Okay.
the company.
Well, my point was, is that I have a real problem of going and assessing a select group for when those two roads are used by everybody in the community. Anybody who wants to go over to the, what do you call it? I don't remember, Skinny Dogs or the Japanese Steakhouse, those, it's accessed by everybody, so why those people should pay, and the kinder care and all that.
Maybe we could make them toll roads.
Well, let's start with Gateway Boulevard, we'll go to that. But anyway, I just don't want to see an assessment on a select group when it benefits everybody in the community.
Yeah, also, I received, I need to call back Sean Ellis, he was the attorney representing, I'll call a group of property owners in the industrial condominium. Get back with him, and Chris and I can circle up and come up to a consensus as to what to present to the board, and see what they're willing to do.
What's the timeline? Are we looking at 30, 60 days to have that?
I'd say within 30 days, we should have something back at the board, well, July 18th, yeah, the next board meeting. Something.
Motion to adjourn.
I have nothing, so I will say we are adjourned.
5:06.
5:06. Thank you, Ward.
I'll keep this.
Yeah.
Get up there to you.